There's nothing like a fat, juicy steak. Tonight we're going to show you how to prepare a thick-cut, USDA choice New York strip steak in a cast iron skillet. We'll top it with mushrooms and a sauce made from onions, fresh thyme, garlic, beef stock, red wine, and heavy cream. And we'll serve it with our very own mashed potatoes with a twist and crispy, crunchy asparagus. It's going to be delicious, so stick around and we'll show you how we make it. My name is Mark Phillips. I've been in the food and beverage business for over 30 years. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to be in over 10,000 kitchens from around the world. Each week, I travel to a different city and get the opportunity to call on some of the most amazing chefs in the industry. The Kitchen of Chef Mark is a channel dedicated to showing you how you too can make fine dining, restaurant quality food right in your own home. We'll travel together, we'll cook together, and we'll have some fun along the way. Welcome to the Kitchen of Chef Mark. Now let's get cooking. New York strip. Pan seared in a cast iron skillet with mushrooms and a red wine cream sauce. Our mise en place for tonight's dish is 1 thick-cut USDA choice New York strip steak, salt and fresh cracked black pepper, 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil, 1 piece of herb butter, and we'll leave a link in the description below on how to make that at home, a pinch of chopped parsley, and a pinch of sprouts for garnish. For the mushrooms and sauce, 1/2 stick of butter, 1 small yellow onion chopped, 1 small package of sliced mushrooms, 3 sprigs of fresh thyme, 3 cloves of fresh garlic, 1 cup of red wine, 1 cup of beef stock, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and salt and pepper to taste. If possible, salt the steak 24 hours before cooking. If you can't do it one day in advance, then at least 1 to 2 hours before cooking will work. The salt does draw out the moisture of the steak, but then through osmosis the salt moisture gets drawn back into the steak overnight so that the whole steak is seasoned, not just the outside. Preheat your oven to 425 degrees, and then in a cast iron skillet add a few tablespoons of sunflower oil. We're using sunflower oil instead of olive oil because it has a higher smoke point and will not burn as easily as olive oil. We want the heat to be relatively high so we can get a nice sear on our steak. Pat the steak dry with a paper towel. We want the steak to form a crust when it hits the pan. Excess moisture will cause the steak to steam instead of sear. So dry off any moisture and then add some fresh cracked black pepper to the steak and press it in with your hand. Add the steak to the hot skillet and let it cook for 3 minutes. And don't touch it! We want the steak to form a nice crust, so don't move it around or mash it down. Just leave it alone and let it cook. Wow, listen to that sear! Once the top of the steak has cooked for 3 minutes, flip the steak over and put it on another part of the pan and cook the bottom side of the steak for 3 minutes. And look at that crust, it's perfect! Remove the steak from the pan and place it on top of a sheet of aluminum foil. Add a piece of the fresh thyme and a piece of herb butter to the top of the steak and then wrap it in the foil. Then place it in the oven and let it finish cooking for about 7 to 8 minutes. Once it's done cooking in the oven, remove the steak from the oven but leave it in the foil. Back in the cast iron skillet, turn the heat down to low. We're going to add in a few pieces of butter and we don't want them to burn. Immediately add in the chopped onions and saute them for 5 to 6 minutes. Add in the mushrooms next and saute them for 10 minutes. We want the mushrooms and the onions to get nice and brown. Season with some fresh cracked black pepper and give the onions and mushrooms a nice stir. Add in the fresh thyme next. Fresh thyme pops and crackles when it hits the hot pan. Take a listen. Add in the garlic and let it cook for only a minute. Garlic burns easily, so as soon as it gets fragrant and you smell it, it's done. Add in the juice of a squeezed lemon. Turn the heat up to medium-high and add in the red wine, the heavy cream, and the beef stock, and let it simmer and reduce by half, about 5 to 6 minutes. Turn the heat off and allow it to cool for a few minutes, and then add in a few pieces of cold butter and stir it in. In order to have smooth sauce to pour over our dish, we'll use a strainer and a ladle to strain the onions, mushrooms, and garlic out of the sauce. Use a fork to help get the sauce through the strainer. It's time to slice up our New York strip steak. We'll use our trusted and sharp Wusthof 8-inch classic chef's knife for the job. And now it's time to plate our dish. We'll plate the dish with mashed potatoes and asparagus. There will be a link in the description below on how to make the best, creamiest, and cheesiest mashed potatoes and crispy and crunchy asparagus. And there it is! New York strip steak with mushrooms and red wine cream sauce. Tender and juicy with creamy and cheesy mashed potatoes and crunchy asparagus. It was delicious! Until next time, bon appetit!